Hello. It has been a minute since I have posted on here. No reason in particular. It definitely was not a planned break. It's just kind of what happened. I wanted to do a bit of a March wrap up and also talk about some of my April plans. For the month of April, I'm not going to be doing a TBR video. A couple reasons for that. The big one is I've been such a mood reader. I mean, I normally am a mood reader, especially the last few months. I've been a major mood reader. I have ideas of some books that I want to read, but nothing really set in stone, and I don't want to lock myself into having to read certain books. I want to keep it open. I don't know if that's just for the month of April or if this is going to be the new way that I read. I've been seeing a lot of other booktubers do seasonal TBRs. So right now there's a lot of spring TBRs going out. That might be something that I do in the future. We're just gonna kind of see how things go. Okay, for the month of March, I did read 11 books. Technically, kind of. I guess technically 10. We'll get to that. 5 books were romance, 4 books were fantasy, and 2 books were dystopian or sci-fi. Now, usually I go through this list from my worst ratings up to my best rating. This time I'm going to try separating it out by genre, starting with the least read genre to the most read genre. So starting with the dystopian or sci-fi novels, like I said, there were 2. There was a 2-star and a 3-star. The 2-star was Lakewood by Megan Giddings. Obviously, with it being a 2-star, it wasn't really my cup of tea. This book was a dystopian horror, more along the lines of a social horror. It's about a character called Lena, and in the beginning of the book, her grandmother has just passed away. She was really, really close with her grandmother. Her mom is actually really sick and has been for some time, so her relationship with her grandma was almost more of a maternal relationship because she and her grandma had to take care of her mom so much. So once her grandma dies, it's kind of up to Lena to take care of the house, pay the bills, especially the medical bills for her mom. She's trying to go to school, so obviously this is really hard to do. She ends up coming across this research opportunity. So she goes to this secret facility where they're conducting research, and it's a lot of experimental stuff. To be honest, I don't remember a whole lot of it. Like I said, it wasn't really my cup of tea, so I don't remember a lot of the details. One of the serums that they were testing was something that actually changed the color of the iris. So that was kind of one example of something that these scientists were testing on these people. A lot of the volunteers, of course, were people who really kind of had no choice. So they really needed the money. They didn't really have any other better opportunities available to them. Definitely kind of a strange story. It felt very much like a fever dream. And I think that could really be a reason why I just don't remember a lot of it. Yeah, I won't be thinking too hard about that one in the future. And then my 3-star was How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This one I did read in my weekend reading vlog, which was actually the most recent video that I posted. So if you want more in-depth detail on that one, be sure to check out that vlog. I'll link it down below. The gist of it is it's a literary sci-fi, kind of a compilation of short stories, but all the short stories are interconnected to one big story. It's just really different points of views of the same world, the same scenario. And it's this ancient virus is accidentally released from a cave in Serbia, and it spreads to the public. It causes a pandemic, and a lot of people don't survive the pandemic. The book kind of goes around focusing on different people and how they're coping, what they're doing to get through it, or perhaps what they're doing to getting to the other side of the pandemic. It was a very emotional read, very kind of dark, but at the same time, the overall message was one of hope and the resilience of the human spirit. I would recommend the book, but probably not to everybody. The next most read genre was fantasy, which, like I said, I did read 4. There was a 3.5-star and then 3 5-stars. The 3.5-star read was Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This one I read for the Court of Fables book club hosted by Jordan over at Bookish Gem. This is a YA fantasy. It's about a girl named Elizabeth who grew up in one of the grand libraries, and an act of sabotage kind of frames her or implicates her for a crime. And so she's kind of forced to both prove her innocence and try to escape those that are trying to persecute her with the help of a sorcerer called Nathaniel and his demon woman called Silas. They basically work to uncover this centuries-long conspiracy. It's a super fantastical story. The atmosphere is really good. There's a little bit of a romance. It's very, very subtle, but still pretty cute. And the three main characters I thought were done really, really well. And the 5-star fantasies that I read: A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Yes, I just read this in December, but I did a bit of a reread, and this time I read it with the dramatized audiobook. It just split into 2 different audiobooks, so Goodreads and Storygraph tracked that as 2 different books. So that's why technically I read 10 books for the month of March, but also technically I read 11 because I didn't use the book. I listened to it purely on the dramatized audio. So this was great. I loved this book back in December when I read it, and it was even more amazing the second time around. Well, maybe not even more amazing, but it was pretty good. I mean, it's a huge book, so it was really nice to kind of go back. I picked up on some details that I missed the first time, and there were a couple things that really hit for me the first time around that I kind of forgot about, and then they hit for me again the second time around, and I'm like, oh yes, yep, that's why this was my favorite book of 2022. And the reason that I reread ACOMAF was so that I could restart and finish ACOWAR. I started this one back in January, I think it was, and I only got not quite halfway. Actually, it wasn't even halfway. It was like 28 chapters in. 24, something like that. 250 pages in. So it wasn't very far, but I knew I needed to restart it because some time had gone by. I did listen to the dramatized audio for this one as well, but I did it as a tandem read with the book. I didn't love this one as much as I loved ACOMAF, but it was definitely still 5 stars. And if you've read this book, there is something that happens at the end that is such an unnecessary roller coaster ride. I couldn't handle it. That's all I'm gonna say. If you've read it, you know. And if you haven't read it, you should read it, and then you'll know. Okay, and then my most read genre for the month of March was romance, which, why does this keep happening? This is the first month that I did read a romance. I've honestly been trying not to read romance because somehow it managed to be my most read genre of last year. But I like to reserve my romance reads for books that are really, really hyped by myself or just other readers. For the romance books, I did read volumes 1 through 4 of the Heartstopper series. I read these for the Let's Get Graphic Readathon hosted by Keisha of A Book Like You, Gwen of Lavender Mud and Gwendolyn Kensinger, and Elizabeth of Ponytails and Paperbacks. I've never really read graphic novels, but I kept hearing about the Heartstopper series, and I know that it's now a show on Netflix, and literally have never heard a bad thing about it. So since this readathon was happening at the beginning of March, I was like, cool, let's go for it. I was able to get all 4 volumes from my library, and it was amazing. Volumes 1 and 2, I rated 5 stars. Volume 3, I rated 4 stars. And Volume 4, I rated 4.5 stars. First 2 are definitely my favorite because I like pining stages of a romance, and that's kind of where all the pining takes place. I did read these ones in my birthday reading vlog, so if you want more in-depth thoughts, be sure to check out that vlog. Again, I'll link that one down below. And then the 5th romance that I read in March, I rated 4.5 stars, and that was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I was really excited about this one because I loved The Love Hypothesis. I think that was my second favorite book in 2022. So naturally, I assumed that I would love this one as well, and I did. Not quite as much, and honestly it did not have that 5-star feel for me, which was why I went with 4.5 stars, but still a fantastic book. This is the other book that was featured in my weekend reading vlog, so check that one out for all my thoughts and opinions. But basically the gist is that he and Levi are working together on a project for NASA. I guess you would probably call it enemies to lovers. There's science, there's romance, there's spice, a lot more spice than what was in The Love Hypothesis. Ali Hazelwood did not disappoint. I have some opinions about all the negative reviews that I've been hearing about this book, so again, for more on those, check out my weekend reading vlog. So those are all the books that I read in the month of March. In lieu of having an April TBR, I'm just gonna kind of talk about some of my April plans for my channel, for my reading, for my personal life, you know. All right, let's see. So firstly, I will be participating in Flowerathon, which takes place this weekend, April 7th through April 9th. It's hosted by Rachel over at Happy Go Lovely Sleeves in celebration of her birthday. The whole idea is just to read books with flowers on the cover. It's very, very spring-like, which I am here for. I don't know about you guys, but I live in Michigan. I live in northern Michigan, right by the water. So our winters are usually pretty long, pretty cold, and pretty snowy. But next week, there's a few days that are forecasted to be in the 70s. I think spring is finally here. It's finally made its way to my neck of the woods. Looking forward to the heat and humidity so that I can start complaining about wanting summer to be over and fall to get here. I'm never happy. Back to Flower-a-thon. There are a couple books that I definitely have on my radar that I would like to get to this month. Maybe not this weekend, but in honor of Rachel's readathon. First is The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. As you can see, whoops, let's put that down. As you can see, there are definitely flowers on the cover. I really like Christina Lauren. What have I read by them? I've read In a Holidays, Something Wilder, Love and Other Words. I think that's it. And I loved all of them. So they are definitely a favorite author of mine. So anyways, this one's on my radar this month. What is this one about? Olive Torres is used to being the unlucky twin. From inexplicable mishaps to a recent layoff, her life seems to be almost comically jinxed. By contrast, her sister Amy is an eternal champion. She even managed to finance her entire wedding by winning a slew of contests. Unfortunately for Olive, the only thing worse than constant bad luck is having to spend the wedding day with the best man and her nemesis, Ethan Thomas. Clearly the romantic interest. Olive braces herself for wedding hell, determined to put on a brave face, but when the entire wedding party gets food poisoning, the only people who aren't affected are Olive and Ethan. Suddenly, there's a free honeymoon up for grabs, and Olive will be damned if Ethan gets to enjoy paradise solo. Agreeing to a temporary truce, the pair head for Maui. Ooh, Hawaii. Okay. After all, 10 days of bliss are worth having to assume the role of loving newlyweds, right? But the weird thing is, Olive doesn't mind playing pretend. In fact, the more she pretends to be the luckiest woman alive, the more it feels like she might be. That sounds really sweet. And the other one that I really have my eye on, The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. What's my experience with Rachel Hawkins? I read Reckless Girls, which I liked. I think I gave that one four or 4.5 stars. I can't remember. I didn't love it. The ending was disappointing, but it was a very quick read and entertaining. The Villa I read back in January. I think that one was just 3 stars. For being marketed as a thriller, it didn't feel very thrillery. It was definitely more of a mystery. Yeah, it was fine. It was fine. The ending, again, not my favorite. So a little nervous about this one. I guess it could go either way. I've heard things, but I couldn't pull it out of my head and explain it to you right now. Meet Jane. Newly arrived to Birmingham, Alabama, Jane is a broke dog walker in Thornfield Estates, a gated community full of McMansions, shiny SUVs, and bored housewives. The kind of place where no one will notice if Jane lifts the discarded tchotchkes and jewelry off the side tables of her well-heeled clients. Where no one will think to ask if Jane is even her real name. Meet Eddie, recently widowed. He has become Thornfield Estate's most mysterious resident. Ever since his wife Bee drowned in a boating accident with her best friend, their bodies lost to the deep. Jane can't help but see an opportunity in Eddie. Not only is he rich, brooding, and handsome, but he could also offer her the kind of protection she craves. Yet, as the two fall for each other, Jane is haunted by the legend of Bee, an ambitious beauty and successful entrepreneur with rags to riches origin story. How can she, plain Jane, ever measure up, and can Jane win Eddie's heart before her past or his catches up with her? There's also a Book of the Month Backless Readathon happening for the entire month of April, hosted by Desiree over at Sips and Spines on Instagram. I want to try to focus on reading as many of my Book of the Month books as I can, because I have, after receiving my April book, I now have 56 unread Book of the Month books. Do my best to make that a focus. The book that's being read for Jess's book club, Sleep When I'm Dead, is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. Luckily, it is Book of the Month, so 2 birds, 1 stone. I've definitely heard mixed things on this one. A couple friends have already read it. I know one really enjoyed it, and one was like, skip it. So we shall see. I think the gist is a group of authors go to this writing retreat and they are challenged to write an entire novel, and the one that wins, or the one that is selected, gets to be published, I think. Yeah, they'll receive a life-changing 7-figure publishing deal. It's considered a claustrophobic and propulsive thriller. It looks very wintry, so it might not quite be in season anymore, but that's okay. Okay, what else do I have going on? You've probably heard me talk about this a couple times now. I've been working on an Emily Henry vlog since I started BookTube back in essentially November. I think Halloween, it was the first video No, day before Halloween. I think October 30th was my first video upload. But yeah, pretty much since November, I've been working on an Emily Henry vlog. I've read Book Lovers, I've read Beach Read, I still have to read People We Meet on Vacation. So this has got to happen this month. This is like the third time that I've said I'm going to focus on it. So this one is not a loose guideline. This we can consider officially on my April TBR because it absolutely has to happen because Happy Place comes out later this month. I did not intend on this vlog taking as long as it has, but since it's taken us to the release date of the 4th romance novel by Emily Henry, I'm going to include it. So I'm really excited to do that. That comes out April 25th. I don't have an arc for it. I'm just going to buy it when it comes out. So I need to read this and then read Happy Place as quickly as I can and then get this ding ding dong vlog edited and posted and out of my hands. Aside from that, I do also have three more secret vlogs that I'm working on. One of them is kind of just an idea I've started in my brain. I have no idea when that's going to happen. One I've already started filming for, and another one might happen this month, might happen next month, or just sometime soon. So I am going to be working on those. As far as my channel, some of my plans are just really trying to solidify a more regular schedule. I'm definitely still trying to grow my channel, and I know that having a regular posting schedule and providing consistent content is important for growing my audience and reaching the right people. So that's going to be a focus of mine in the month of April. I have found that I would much rather do a reading vlog. It's both more fun to do and more fun to edit than just like these sit in front of the camera and talk kind of videos, because I don't know, I ramble and I'm socially awkward. So there's a lot of editing that has to take place for me to sound like I know how to speak English. So that'll be a focus of mine, but also focusing on myself in general. Usually every single year, my mental and physical health kind of plummets after the holidays. I think it's a combination of just the euphoria that I feel in the months of October, November, December. You know, it's just the excitement of spooky season and then the excitement of the holiday season. And then immediately after all of the fun, I, at least in the area that I live, am plummeted into this deep, dark, freezing cold abyss of endless winter. And that's really hard. So, you know, there's not a lot of physical activity that happens. There's not a lot of self-care that happens. There's a lot more eating because I'm bored, eating things that are not going to properly fuel and nourish my body. So it turns into a vicious cycle of me not feeling my best and then not doing anything to pull myself out of that. And I'm just kind of pushing myself deeper and deeper and deeper. So like I said, spring has finally kind of started to emerge here. I'm trying to get into spring mode, summer mode, and kind of get back to my regular self of spending time outside, going for walks, eating things to properly fuel my body and my brain to just fully improve my overall well-being. Definitely physically, because you gotta take care of yourself, but also mentally, because mental health is so important and can be really fragile at times. But yeah, that's what's going on with me. Also, I don't know if you can tell, I took scissors to my hair today and I cut like 3 inches off. I did it myself, okay, because I can't rationalize, like, I don't want a fancy haircut. I just wanted to cut off like the ends that were crunchy and split from a super dry winter. And it was just getting too long and lanky, and I hated doing anything with it. So finally today I'm just like, I'm done. So I went in the bathroom and, you know, I think it turned out fine. It looks good, feels good, and I didn't have to spend $150 at the salon. So that's a win in my book. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sticking with me through my little unintended hiatus. If you want to leave a comment and you don't know what to say, I'd love to know some of your April plans, whether it's reading plans, personal goals that you set for yourself, anything. Let's be each other's cheerleader. I hope spring has sprung for all of you. As always, thank you so much for being here, and until next time.